ResortLoop.com is brought to you by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company. Enjoy Joffrey's new single origin coffee, Peru Cafe Femenino. Available at Joffreys.com and at the Joffrey's kiosks throughout the Disney parks and resorts. And the best part, the sale of Joffrey's Coffee Cafe Femenino gives back to worthy projects and programs that enhance the lives of women and their families in coffee communities. That's Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
We're now passing one of the newest additions to the Disney Vacation Club, Bay Lake Tower at Disney's Contemporary Resort.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
This is ResortLoop.com. This is episode 311.
Okay. You sure?
No. And this is one of our favorite shows we're starting to do every month. It's another DVC Roundtable show, Bob.
Absolutely love these shows. We've got our crew sitting around the table with us. But before we get started, Tim,
yes,
I would like to wish. We don't typically do this, but it's kind of special. So I just want to wish a happy birthday. I don't know if this person's a looper or not, but just happy birthday, Reginald Dwight. Turns 69 today. So happy birthday to Reginald.
happy birthday.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of you might know him as Elton John, but yeah. Reginald Kenneth Dwight.
I believe that's Sir.
Sir Reggie. We'll call him Sir Reggie from here on out. Of course, huge in the Disney community for all of his wonderful music.
That's right. Don't we call him Mr. October?
I don't think we do.
Oh, that must be a different Reggie.
That's a different Reggie. Yeah. Come on, keep it together, man.
I'm sorry. Anyway, joining us on the show, good friends of the show, members of the ResortLoop.com blogging team, we have Emily Honsa Hicks.
Hello there.
And Joe Quattrocchi.
Gentlemen, how are you tonight? And Emily?
Excellent.
We are doing wonderful. We should actually probably be doing a running show today.
Yeah,
Throw it
really.
in there.
We got two incredible runners that
DVC and Run Disney go
That's
together,
it.
I found.
That's right.
It's called One Giant Money Pit, is what that is.
Right. Automatic deduction would be
Exactly.
There you go. So real quick, Emily, you're getting ready to run a half, and you're injured. What's going on?
So yeah, not only am I getting ready to run a half, but I'm getting ready to run a 10K and a half because there's a Death Star involved. So I signed up for the Dark Side Challenge. Being a slightly amateur runner in that I've never run more than a 10K since, well, actually I ran my first 10K in January. And of course, I overtrained, as they put it, which I think is a cool word for being stupid. And I ran 8 miles with a friend, and around mile 5, my knee went out this weekend. So now I'm training by sitting on the couch thinking about running.
Yikes.
So, yep, everybody keeps telling me just stay off of it and then save all of the goodness for the big day. So, or the big 2 days as it will be. But we'll see. I'm itching to get out there because I found that I actually kind of like running. So it's weird.
That is weird.
It's weird. My biggest disappointment, though, is that I was counting on going fast enough that I would be able to take pictures with Boba Fett and Darth Maul. And I'm a little concerned that if I run, walk, or walk it, that I will not be able to stand in a 45-minute line during a race, which is a Run Disney thing.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Gotcha.
Would you cramp up waiting in line? Maybe that's probably just me.
Joe, you got any races coming up?
Yeah, actually I do. Not as exciting as Emily's, but I do have a race back in New Jersey. I'm running the Runapalooza Asbury Park Half Marathon in the middle of April. So I'm running that with my running club in New Jersey. And it's a good race. Raises a lot of money for a good cause with the Special Olympics, I believe. And runs along the boardwalk in Asbury Park and down the Jersey Shore. So nothing in Disney, probably until January. Seems like every Run Disney event in Orlando, I have other stuff going on that weekend. So I'm kind of, striking out with the schedule this year. But I do have at least that one race coming up in mid-April. So I did another 7 miles tonight. The training's going okay. So we'll see what happens the middle of April.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Wow.
Excellent. So we'll be looking forward to those races from our wonderful running team. We're going to get a running team together, by the way, just to let everybody know.
That's a little foreshadowing there, yes.
A little foreshadowing. We got some pretty cool stuff coming in April, folks. Just letting you know.
Is it all going to be on the 1st? Because that doesn't count.
No. We may
know your style.
Yeah, we may have a news show on the 1st. So
We may.
we may. We'll see. We'll see. Tim,
Yes, Bob.
what do we have for our roundtable today?
Well, today we got a couple questions from a listener. And if you have any questions, send them to the roundtable. You can send them to questions@ResortLoop.com. But Robert has a question for us. He says, my wife and I are researching whether to buy from Disney, resale, or rent points. He finds the DVC podcast very interesting, but would like the panel to help out by defining the terms that are associated with the DVC, or the DVC lingo, so to speak. And he says, thanks for all the great info. So I thought it would be nice if we went down, and if anybody has anything to add to these terms, I thought we'd just kind of go through them and kind of explain what these are for the newbies to the DVC lingo. I kind of assumed that everybody kind of knew what these were, and that was probably my mistake in that.
So what are points?
Ladies first, Emily.
I was going to say this list alone could be like 4 podcasts, but so points, okay, are an imaginary. See, it's the wrong question to ask me. But points are an imaginary representation of your deeded real estate interest. So basically, you're talking about a timeshare, and you technically do own a small portion, and there are people on the internet who have figured out exactly which portion of what unit you own. But for all intents and purposes, there's no way you get like your room every time or anything like that. You may never ever even know which unit you technically own 1/3 of or something like that. So points are their representation for managerial purposes of making reservations. So basically a point means like one tiny little fraction of a vacation stay. And so Disney is the point-based system, and a bunch of other places have taken this approach. But you essentially, depending on how many points you have, you can get a bigger or smaller unit, and you can stay for more or less time and in different periods of the year. So the highest, if you want a grand villa that, holds your entire extended family, in the Grand Floridian at Christmas, you're going to spend a lot of points. Or I guess really now you have to use the Polynesian bungalow as the example. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be like a huge point outlay, like 800 or 1,000 or something like that for a week. Versus you could stay for a week in a studio at Old Key West for like maybe 80 and a low demand time of year. So it's just like a little tiny, it's like a currency. It's like the DVC currency is really the way to think of it.
Okay.
And Emily, just to elaborate on what you said, just like the rack rate rooms, if you were to buy or purchase a room from Disney rack rate, regular resort room, the DVC rooms are divided into 5 different seasons. One's called the Adventure season, one is the Choice season, the Dream season, the Magic season, and the Premier season. I always try to travel during the Adventure season because that's always the cheapest. But as Emily said before, each season there are different weeks and time frames, and that's how Disney bases their point values off of the different seasons. So obviously the Premier season is going to be around Christmas and New Year's and spring break time. Magic season would be most of the summer, and so on and so forth. So that's how Disney divides it up. Also, each resort has their own points chart. The dates will stay the same, but the points charts will change depending on the season.
Okay, now let me ask you real quick. Points, is it fewer points to stay during the week and more points for the weekend like they do with the rack rates?
So that's the way Disney, I'm sorry, Emily, to jump on you, but the way Disney does it is it's Sunday through Thursday are usually the cheaper days, and Friday and Saturday are actually the more expensive nights. So okay. Sunday night, believe it or not, it's a weekend day is considered almost like a weekday.
Right. Okay. What about home resort? What is home resort?
You want to start, Joe?
Sure. Your home resort is essentially when you purchase your DVC contract. Your contract is the amount of points, like Emily said, that you use to, to reserve your room. Your home resort is where you actually, quote unquote, own part of the resort. Your home resort allows you to book at that resort 11 months in advance. So for an example, to use myself, I'm an owner at Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa. My use year, which we will get to, is February, and I own 150 points. So if I want to vacation, whenever, I could book 11 months in advance at my home resort, which is Saratoga Springs. If I like to book anywhere else, I have to wait till 7 months out. And once the 7-month mark hits, whatever is left over, I can go and try to book at whatever resorts, Bay Lake Tower, Boardwalk Villas, so on and so forth. Your home resort also is where your assigned dues go to. Each resort, Bay Lake Tower, Boardwalk Villas, Saratoga Springs, each resort has different amounts of maintenance fees per year. A maintenance fee is essentially, it's a price assigned to each point, and that helps all of the owners at that home resort essentially keep up the maintenance of the resort. So even though it's a Disney resort, all of the owners actually pay for the maintenance of the resort because you are an owner at that resort. So it's not like the Disney corporate is putting money into it. We as owners are paying every year into this big pot at our home resort, and that's what keeps the resort, refurbished and to redo the rooms and so on and so forth. So your home resort essentially is where your points are assigned to, where you technically own, and also where your maintenance fees go to. Emily, if you want to, did I miss anything with the home resort?
No, I just want to sort of emphasize that even though it's a point-based system, technically speaking, your home resort is what you are essentially contracting to purchase. So you really are purchasing your home resort. That's where you're really getting a deed recorded in Florida. You're actually getting a deed recorded in Florida's property records. So it's not sort of an imaginary points. And basically it's sort of like a web in that or like a spoken wheel, which is a Disney concept, right? Of course, he wasn't the first, but he loved them. So each DVC resort is like one of the spokes, and DVC has like a larger group that manages all the properties. But in essence, you could have benefits cut at other resorts. So you have to be careful. You have to really like the place you sign up for. So
Correct.
Because you really are buying into a resort, not all of them.
Right,
Okay.
but none of them. I mean, you're not
There's
buying
no
it.
expectation. Right. There's no expectation that they're ever going to disconnect. But for example, the best example I can give you is pool hopping. You have the right to stay, like wherever you stay, the pool, you can use that pool, obviously. But you don't necessarily have the right to use other pools. So each resort itself decides whether or not DVC members can pool hop, even if they're DVC pools. So like Animal Kingdom, Kidani, I believe that's on the list of no pool hopping. And Polynesian used to be a pool that you could pool hop to. Any DVC member could. But now it's on the list of no pool hopping. So the individual organizations, individual sort of like condo associations, if you will, can opt out of sharing certain amenities, if that makes sense.
Okay. What about what is borrowing? When they talk about, banking. What is banking? As far as I'm guessing, is
Go ahead, Emily.
So banking is essentially where you put away points you're not going to use in a use year. We should probably talk about use year first, maybe.
Okay.
But use year is essentially you get a certain allocation in a certain month, and that's sort of how they divide up the property too, the deeds. But so like we have August that we chose the same use year for both contracts, and so every August we get an allocation of points. So banking would be where we didn't use our points between August 2015 and August 2016, for example, which would never happen. But if we didn't, we could save those points to be used the next year and maybe take a bigger vacation. So we'd bank them and we wouldn't be able to use them then until August 2016. And there is a banking deadline. And Joe, do you remember how many months it is?
That I don't. I know my use year is February, so I know it's usually like October or November or something like that.
That sounds right. Like it's like 3 or 4 months. So you have like until 3 or 4 months before the end of your use year to bank your points. And I apologize for my lack of specificity there, but basically then you can use them in the next year, but you cannot use them in those remaining months if you change your mind.
And the great thing about banking is for example, just say there's a year where you've got a child getting married, or you want to go to, somewhere that's not Disney. I mean, this allows you to bank those points and put them away and essentially not waste them. You're not locked into a Disney vacation every year. Now, there are a certain amount of years. I think you could only bank up to 1 year, Emily, if I think that's correct.
Right.
But at least it gives you the option of you don't have to go every year to a Disney resort. You could take a year off and do something else, or not vacation at all, and bank those points for a future trip to go, a larger room or a different resort, or even a longer stay. So that gives you the opportunity to at least break up. We're all Disney fans, not the monotony of going every year, but it gives you that option to take a break.
It's so terrible. We suffer, right?
So bad.
And to just sort of eliminate what he said, you can basically go as little as once every 3 years and still be using all your points yourself. So if you go any less often than 3 years, you're either wasting your points or you would want to rent them out to somebody who would use them.
Oh, okay. And just to jump ahead a little bit, Bob and Tim, in regards to borrowing, since we just talked about banking, we'll use my contract, for example. I have 150 points. My use year is February. So in February, I have 150 points. Just for an example, just say I book 11 months out and I want to get a Grand Villa or treetop Villa at Saratoga Springs. The point value is going to be much, much larger than like a standard studio. So if 150 points is not enough for what I'm looking for, I can go and borrow 150 points from a future contract, to bring back into this use year, and then I'll have 300 points available to use for this year. But then the following year, I don't have any points because I've already borrowed them. So that is another thing you could do as well. Is you could borrow from a future contract to use for your current contract.
Does it have to be the full number of points that you own, or can it just be a portion of those points?
I believe I haven't done it yet, but Emily, I believe it could be a portion.
A portion, yep. You can bank or borrow as many or as few points as you have available in that use year. So basically, you can only work with the points you have on your plate then. And they're trapped. The other key thing to think about is that they're trapped into the year. Once you transfer them, they're stuck there.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. So if you bank them thinking you're not going to go somewhere, and then you sign up for one more Run Disney race, and not that would ever happen to me, but then you can't use those points. You would have to borrow from the next year, but not the same points you banked. It is a little complicated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
so in Joe's one of his examples of maybe you got a big wedding and you want to bring the whole family down. You got some big event, that family reunion, whatever that might be. You could actually bank your points from, let's say, this year for 2017, and then when 2017 came, you could borrow from 2018 and get like a 2-bedroom villa or more.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Oh,
that's what.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, how far ahead can you borrow? Can you only borrow 1 year ahead? Can you go
1 year?
1 year? Okay.
Okay. And then what's the transferring? You touched on transferring a little bit there. What's transferring?
I have not transferred, Emily. So
I can tell you a little bit about transferring. I haven't done it either, but I've asked about it before. So transferring you can do once a year, and you're only allowed to do it once a year. And you essentially are transferring points from your contract to another DVC member's world. So it's sort of irrevocable once you do it. And because you're limited to once a year, I don't even think you could transfer back if you had like a problem or something like that. Like you're done, it's transferred. So people could transfer. Transferring is a good way for you to have control over your reservation. If you're a DVC member, instead of having to rent points from another member, you can transfer points from them, essentially like purchasing their points, but then they are your points to use, versus if you are renting DVC, you are at the mercy of whoever is renting the points to you, because they're the only ones who can make changes to the reservation. But if you purchase, or if you transfer points away from yourself, they're gone. They're not yours anymore. They're somebody else's. So that's sort of, it's kind of like a one-time thing every year, I think. And it's but it does, if you are a DVC member, it's preferable to renting.
Now, see, you guys, no, come on, stop it. You guys don't have to transfer your points to Tim and I. You don't have, no, come on, stop. Really?
We can't because you're not DVC members, right?
But you could rent them to us. How would somebody go about renting points?
So, Joe, have you ever rented? We have.
I'm actually currently Rebecca is actually helping me help one of my friends rent some points, but there's a couple different ways you could go about it. There are some third-party websites that you could use, and we are not paid by these people. These are just some of the more popular websites out there. I can't even talk tonight. One of them is the DVC Rental Store. They're DVCRentalStore.com. Another one, which is very reputable, is David's Vacation Rentals. That's DVCRequest.com. And what that is, that's a place if myself or Emily can't use our points and we go to a third party, and essentially they will pay us a certain dollar amount per point. And then they take that, they have our contracts, and then people who are not DVC members will go to them and say, hey, I'm interested in staying at Saratoga for a week at this specific week, and I'm looking for a studio or one bedroom, and they will try to match up contracts. And then the third party vendor, which is the DVC rental store or David's, will charge a premium to the non-DVC member, and that's how they make their money, because they're doing the legwork. And they will essentially rent their contract for you. You essentially rent your contract to them. Another way to do it is you can meet people on like message boards and do it informally, where, if you met somebody on a message board, I can make a reservation for somebody, do like the deal on the side, and then have the names changed. But that's kind of like, a lot of people don't like to do that because you have to have a lot of trust in somebody to do that. But those are kind of a few of the ways. I haven't done it yet. Rebecca was here, it'd be great because she's like the expert on it. But I've been trying to help a friend actually currently right now do a rental, and we're possibly helping her use one of these sites as a third party to get her a room during the Christmas week.
And we did rent before we purchased, and we rented through the timeshare store, which is pretty much all of the, well, maybe not all of them, but many of the DVC brokers, the resale brokers, also do rental points. So that's a way to go. If those established brokers are the way to sort of get yourself a little bit of assurance that somebody's not going to cancel your reservation. In the end, what could happen, like the worst case scenario that everybody's worried about, is you show up in Florida and you find out that there is no reservation for you, and you have no recourse because you say you have a contract with the person, but say you don't know them that well, and there's all kinds of things that could go wrong. Mm-hmm. For the most part, that never happens. There are very few horror stories, but there are occasional horror stories, but that's where but a broker can't prevent that. The broker can only provide you monetary relief once you're in Florida. You know what I mean? They can't make something happen that isn't already there. Right. So,
and usually when you use a third party vendor, there's no canceling. Like when you use their service, it's like once it's booked and once it's going, there's no canceling. There's no so many days deposit. Usually that's it. The reservation's made, and that's it. You're going to go from there. There's no canceling out.
Well, I guess I can understand that, because then you would get almost like the whole dining fiasco that Disney was running into, where people would book almost the whole restaurant, and then nobody shows up.
Right.
You don't once you book that DVC, those points for that room, they're going to have a hard time reselling that if you decide last minute, we're not going to go. We changed our mind. So now they're stuck holding the bag, in essence, because they've purchased those points. Real quick, so if you're a DVC member and you decide to rent your points and use the brokers, or even go your own, you're actually getting cash in hand for those points, right?
Yes, you get it in. From what I understand, you get it in two chunks. You get like a first portion and then a second portion, and I think that's the way people pay as well. So. And I think, Joe, the standard rate right now is around $12 a point that you would receive. and then the person who's renting points is usually going to be paying about $15 a point.
Yeah, I've seen up to $14 to $15 a point right now.
Right. So you're getting $12 for every like $15 or $14 that the broker is charging.
And I've actually met up. I'll never forget this. My last trip in this past September, I actually met a cast member. I was wearing my DVC member hat, and I spoke with a cast member who was selling sodas on Sunset Boulevard at the studios. And she's told me she was actually a DVC owner, but she had moved to Florida, and all she does is rent her weeks every year as extra income because she works there now. She's like, well, I don't need to stay here. I work here, but she kept her points, and she rents them every year as extra income.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
So people sometimes do that. They don't even go. They rent their stuff every year.
I've also heard of people purchasing extra points and renting out some of the points to pay for the maintenance fees on the rest of the points.
Oh, I have that too.
I could not convince Matt to do that, and that's probably because I would have just used them all for vacations. So he's a smart one. Still would have been a good idea in theory.
There you go.
Speaking of the maintenance fees, we went over what they're for. Do they go up every year? How do they decide what the fee is?
Oh, yes. So I wrote down a few figures just as some examples from last year. Some of the examples of the price change was the average price change from 2014 to 2015 was 3.4%. That's across the board of all DVC properties. That's including the DVC properties out in Disneyland, Vero Beach, Hilton Head, so on and so forth. Just a few of the figures from 2015. Just what I pulled up first was Bay Lake Tower was $505 a point. Villas at Grand Californian out at Disneyland was $514 a point. Saratoga Springs was $517. Grand Floridian $552, and it goes all the way up to Vero Beach, which was the most expensive in 2015 at $8.06 a point. So they do vary. They do go up. They're not going to stay the same. But pretty much when you're purchasing your contract, this is something that you have to keep in mind, because if you purchase 200 points, simple math, 200 points times, if you're an owner at Bay Lake Tower, times $5.05 a point, that's what your maintenance fees are going to be a year. And that fee is going to go up. I've seen anywhere they say 3 to 5 or 3 to 6% a year. It sounds like a lot, but after the life of a contract, it does become a lot, but that's something that you have to be prepared for and budget for, because those prices, they are going to go up. They're not going to go down, because remember, you are also you're a shareholder there. So sometimes if, some of the older resorts, they need a new roof. Well, they're going to assess all the owners at, for example, Old Key West, they need new roofs there. You're going to get assessed. The maintenance fees are going to go up. So every resort is different. I've heard that Vero Beach, sometimes the rates are higher because of hurricane insurance. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's stuff I've read on forums and stuff like that. So weird things you never think of. That's why certain places are more expensive than others. If I'm completely wrong about that, I apologize. But each point, that each resort has different maintenance fees for different reasons.
Okay. Right. I would, and just to sort of elaborate on that and sort of reaffirm what you're saying, the freestanding oceanfront resorts like Hilton Head and Vero Beach are supposedly more expensive because of the natural wear that the ocean is giving those properties. Oh, yeah. They are closer to the elements than
Hilton Head was $615 in 2015. Right. Alani was $651, and Vero Beach was $806. So they were three of the higher
right. I've also heard like freestanding resorts and smaller resorts are much higher because, of course, the maintenance fees are spread out among a smaller population, and also you have like you have more sort of walls to work with versus, say, Boardwalk. Although Boardwalk is a bad example because Boardwalk has the boardwalk to help maintain, but say like Beach Club, which is connected to the Beach Club Yacht Club Resort, so they share a lot of the bigger expenses. But if it's a freestanding resort, the DVC members are paying for that upgrade in its entirety. Like, I can't remember how this actually played out, but I think the year that they put in that Skyway between Bay Lake Tower and the Contemporary, right. I think there was like a huge unexpected maintenance fee increase, and people were really taken aback. But basically, anytime you have those big capital projects, you will, as an owner, probably see those in your bottom line. But and as Joe mentioned, those are the things I think you really need to take into account, because I did a bunch of projections before we joined, which I think probably most DVC members do. except the ones that maybe buy on the spot. But we researched it for like at least a month, and I ran a bunch of projections at every resort combination that we possibly thought we would like. And practically every single calculation showed me that it really hardly mattered what we paid for the initial points. Like if we bought brand new, haha. But like if we bought direct points from Disney, there was a very slight difference between actually buying the resale. It was only the upfront cost. The maintenance fees over the course of the contract are 80 to 90% of the price of your DVC contract.
Wow.
So that's what you really want to think about. Now there's all kinds of considerations like making sure you're buying somewhere you want to stay because of course you have a booking advantage. But if you're thinking purely financially, and you cannot predict this except that you can pick a larger resort that's connected and things like that. Like Saratoga Springs has classically had the lowest inflation, but who knows if that'll continue. So you're really, in the end, you cannot predict it.
Right.
But 3 to 5% a year seems to be reliable increase.
And just to be clear, if let's say Vero Beach had a roof rip off, everybody that owns DVC at all the different resorts, they're not pitching in to pay for that. That's just the folks that own Vero Beach that pay for that. Correct? That would be the maintenance fees that would go up.
Right. Although I will say that there's probably insurance for like acts of God kind of catastrophic things.
Oh yeah. I'm sure.
But you're right. If there's like say the boardwalk rips up or something, it's only going to be boardwalk villa holders that have to pitch in for that repair.
Right. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I was going to use a sinkhole as an example.
Yes. And you know what?
Another
it's funny you said that. It's funny you said that because right after we started talking to before we made our purchase, one of those sinkholes opened up right by Orlando, and our guide, which is their name for salespeople, we were buying our portion at the Grand Floridian, was telling us, she was like, oh yeah, I'm getting a lot of calls about this, because I was like, can we get a copy of your insurance policy? So she, but apparently they are covered for sinkholes. So
really? Only in Florida.
So I know, right? At least that's what they told us, because they never sent us the copy of the insurance policy. But it's Disney, so I'll just take their word for it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They wouldn't lie to us.
Right. No, they're listen. They're going to take care of everybody. They're starting to take care of the DVC folks. I mean, you guys are starting to see. I mean, not that they're starting to, but they're increasing some of the value over at Epcot. Have you guys been able to go over to Epcot and check that out yet? Is that open yet?
I was there 2 weekends ago, and I went to Journey to Imagination to go upstairs to the DVC lounge, and it was not open yet. So yeah, I asked the lady who was working down at a gift shop, and she's like, "Oh, it's beautiful up there," but she said, "We don't know when it's opening." So like, okay, that's great.
I own this place.
So yeah, the lounge is there. It's just not open yet. But supposedly, according to a cast member working downstairs at the gift shop at Imagination, it's beautiful, but it's not open yet.
Right.
Well, I will tell you in 3 weeks, assuming I can hobble my way to it, I will be there.
There you go. That's a good point. This is something, I own stock in Disney, and it kind of feels good to have stock in a company that you care about. And if you're thinking about a vacation home, why wouldn't you go DVC?
Right.
We love it, and you own something that you really care about and enjoy. So that's a good call. Tim, we got any other questions from Robert?
We got one more here. We've already touched on it, but I'll read it, and maybe there's a couple more things we can add to it. He goes, on your next DVC Roundtable, could you ask the panel what websites they would recommend and why for both DVC rentals and DVC sales? And as a follow-up, he'd like to know what 3 things the panel would make sure to look for when you rent or buy from Disney or other websites, such as minimum number of points to be allotted each year, and what are the things to avoid, such as Disney policies and what they might be vague about. And he says, enjoy the show.
So, Joe, I'll go with this one first.
Sure.
I'll try to be brief here. I don't have any particular one to recommend, and the reason I say that is because the website you should go through for your resale purchase is the website that has the contract you want. Mm-hmm. So, assuming that the broker does not, even if they're frustrating to work with, I think all of these things are frustrating because every buyer is really eager in these situations, and including myself, who I think of myself as a totally rational person, which everybody can laugh at that because I have like my bag already packed for my next trip.
We're not here to
And
judge.
I have for months. Right? I'm not rational, obviously, but at least I know that, right? But the point is the contract. You want to figure out what month you're normally going to travel, and you want to pick a use year that makes sense for that, and we can get into that some other time. But then you want to find the contract that is the right size. So, like if you always want to stay in a studio in fall, then you want to pick the one that corresponds with the right amount of points for the right resorts. You want to pick like a range of resorts probably. And so basically, once you find that contract at the right price, you just want to go with that website, whatever it is. So we used Fidelity because they had the contract, but we were looking at all the different websites. We had no preference. There are ones that you hear are better to work with and worse to work with. But frankly, I wouldn't pick a real estate purchase based on the real estate agent, essentially. Like you wouldn't be like, oh, I really like that agent, so I'm going to buy a house that they're selling.
Mm-hmm.
You would pick the house you wanted and go with the agent and just try to make it work.
Great tip.
So, yep. So that's what I would say about that.
Excellent. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I used, and this is no endorsement, but I used the timeshare store, which is, DVCstore.com. I actually made my offer while staying at Port Orleans French Quarter. I was in my room, and I came across a contract. I was always looking, and I was like, oh my goodness. And it was pretty seamless. They were excellent. But I agree with Emily. I wouldn't make a purchase based off the person, but that's where my contract was. That would work for me. The use year, everything was at the resort, and it was the end price that I wanted to pay, which was in my budget. Emily kind of touched on a lot of the things that I had written in my notes here. Essentially like when you're going to go. Myself and my wife, we always travel during the value season. I'm always going in September or January, which are the lowest rates. So I can get away with a little bit of lesser points. Even though I wanted to have more points, I know I'm always going to stay in a studio. We don't have any children. A small room is fine for us. So I made my purchase based off, we only need this amount right now. Let's see, what else did I have written here? Make your purchase or make your whatever you feel comfortable booking 11 months out. That's an important thing. If you are a Disney veteran and you hate Saratoga Springs, don't buy a contract at Saratoga Springs. Wait and find a contract at a place you really like. Because if you get stuck there, then you're going to be unhappy. You just spent all this money to stay at a resort that you technically own part of now, and you're not happy. So make sure you're at a resort that you actually are going to want to stay at. You feel comfortable making that reservation 11 months out, and and not trading to go somewhere else after 7 months. Also, too, I think he had made a question about, let's see here. I'm trying to think. I had one other note I wanted to, also too, is within the, in regards to the maintenance fees, keep an eye on that as well. The cheapest contracts don't always have the cheapest maintenance fees. So just make sure, like we had said that, we were talking about maintenance fees before, budget that into your year-end number. Don't overlook that, because, for an example, for the 2015 numbers, Bay Lake Tower had one of the cheapest, rates for that year at 505, and and their points are much higher than Saratoga's points are. So just do your homework. Look at every single thing, because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to make a 10, 15, 20,000, however big your contract is, and then be like, oh no, I didn't see all these fees, and then it kind of like ruins your stuff. So ruins your whole experience. So look at when you want to go, look at the points charts to see, where you're going to want to stay 11 months out, make sure you have enough points for what you're going to want to do, and look at all of the hidden fees, the maintenance fees, the closing costs, all that kind of stuff, because that is all going to come into play. Because you're essentially buying a small real estate, venture.
Are there any tax advantages or pitfalls to DVC? When you start, you're in.
So I haven't
filed taxes yet, but
okay.
I can tell you that I can't obviously give tax advice here.
No.
And I would caution anybody from against listening to me. But if under certain circumstances, for example, my husband and I are able to deduct the interest that we pay or what is it? The property taxes, I'm sorry, that we pay.
Yes.
Or I might be getting that wrong, but basically we're able to deduct a portion of the DVC ownership on our taxes. So
it's very small. I haven't had a chance to do it yet, but mine was like, I think next year I'm eligible. I think it's like $154 or something. But that's on my contract. It's something small. Now, if you've got a bigger contract, it's going to be obviously a bigger number. But there is a small,
It's not. See, we own 270 points, I believe, 110 at Grand Floridian and 160 at Saratoga, and I think it's pretty fun. Let me tell you. Although we're already in a point borrowing situation, which happens, I've heard. So hence why my husband did not trust me with the let's just pay the maintenance fees with these. We I think our maintenance fees, just to give people a rough estimate of that, that's worth at least 2 weeks in a 1-bedroom if you travel in the off season, which we normally do, like January and September, and January or February and September. And we pay about, I think the first year we paid in the 1300s, and I think this year we paid in the 1400s for maintenance fees, which is still a pretty darn good deal considering we're essentially paying $700 for a week in a 1-bedroom at Disney.
Right.
And then, I mean, not counting the initial investment, but we just forgot about that, so it's okay.
I mean, that's the same with me. Like, I know I stretched out my points last year, 150 staying at Boardwalk and Saratoga. It was, I think I got like 14 or 15 nights out of my points, and it cost me about high sevens, and my maintenance fees. Obviously you're paying off the loan or whatever, but I mean, some of the rack rates at these resorts are between $400 and $600 a night. I mean, so the value is there. It's just come up with the initial investment.
Right. And I would say what we're able to write off, I think last year was around $300 or $400, and it's probably going to be similarly scaled this year, like 400-ish. So however that works in taxes, I'm not a tax person exactly. So right. I would say that, but it's not small for us. I mean, like, that is something. It's worth putting down somewhere. You know what I mean?
Sure.
$400.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it does make you feel a little bit better about paying your dues in January.
Exactly.
Yeah. Helps cut that check. Yeah.
I do have to say, like, I can't believe people stay at Disney like for rack rate.
Right.
It's hard to believe, especially as a DVC member. Yeah, exactly. Like, I would just buy more points because it would probably cost the same.
Right. Yeah, I haven't paid rack rate until since the very first time we stayed, and I went, wow, I won't do that again.
You walked off.
But it was
I used to work the old PIN codes, if you remember those.
Oh, yeah.
When people used to post those on the internet.
Yeah.
Clearly, they don't do those anymore for that reason. But
No.
and I want to add one more thing. And you're paying your dues every year. Disney's pretty good about it. Like, they give you enough notice. They do take credit cards. So if you have a Disney credit card, or if you get airline miles, you could pay those dues via credit card. We get a
flight off of it.
Yeah, you can even split up the payments. If you decide to split up your payments, you have to actually call member services. I split mine up between my wife's credit card and mine to get the airline miles. But if you just use one credit card, you could do it right online, get all the points, all the miles. So it's not like you have to physically write a check. You can put it on a credit card, get your points, which is very convenient as well. So you're still getting, even if you're paying it off right away, you're getting a bonus right there as well.
We also pay in January, but that's just because my husband's weird. I actually think we would save money technically if you were like a real nerd, if you paid it monthly, and they will let you pay it monthly, and there's no interest. There's no interest added or anything. So technically speaking, I believe you'd be paying less if you consider that you get to hold on to your money longer.
Right.
So,
absolutely. Right. Yeah. I'm a big fan of holding on to my money.
Right.
As Tim will,
I prefer to give it to Disney.
Well, it eventually goes to Disney. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Tim, since Robert asked all the questions, and that's my name, that is all I've got for our DVC Roundtable.
Excellent. We're going to move on now to just a real quick DVC spotlight. Emily's going to be nice enough to share some
yes,
Floridian
yes
DVC resort with us.
I like how you put real quick in there because I will wax poetic. So cut me off if necessary. I've noticed a trend in your episodes. When I'm on, it's like an extra hour. Of course, I
We
like
love
long
having you on.
podcasts, so it's okay. I'll just start telling you what I love about Grand Floridian, and you can tell me if you have any questions or whatever. But I will tell you that we purchased in when it was fairly new on the sales scale. I think it was 150 point. And it was worth every penny, believe it or not, even though I will tell people to go resale all the way. I will tell you if you really like a resort and you think you would be happy there for 50 years, vacationing there for 50 years, go for it direct because because basically you do buy into that 11-month resort window. So we have gotten stuck at the Grand Floridian for a couple of vacations so far. But believe it or not, like one of my goals when we joined was to stay at every single resort. But we do go in these off seasons, which for DVC are the popular seasons because they're less expensive. So there's quite a rush, and I think Joe would back me up on this, especially for race weekends.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, for the off season, essentially, it's really weird, but that becomes popular because it's less expensive, and you can go for say 2 weeks instead of 3, or 2 weeks instead of 1. So we purchased a small portion at Grand Floridian. We purchased 110 points, and that was 1/3 of what we thought the maximum amount we would want, which would be like a full week in a 1 or 2 bedroom. So at like sort of a moderate to high season. And we love it. Every time we stay there, we're like, this is clearly the best. And we still like the other resorts. And I actually think every single time I stay at any of them, I think this is clearly the best. So the resort is themed sort of a Mary Poppins, like grand, the DVC resort specifically is Mary Poppins themed, I would say overall. There's like some gilded elements. The elevators adorably have these little umbrellas that show you which floor you're on, and they tick like they don't just show a number, they move the umbrella from floor to floor.
Oh wow!
And cool. It's pretty fun. The kids like it. And
now that's the one with the penguins in the main lobby.
Yes, the playful penguins dressed as little waiters, and they have a what is it? They have an Alice in Wonderland themed kids water feature now, which my children are actually scared of at this point, but
oh no.
When they were younger they didn't care, but they since learned to fear. And but because it like dumps a big Mad Hatter top hat of water down occasionally. Awesome. Right, so apparently like the 3 year is a bad year for that. Like 2 is fine, hoping 4 is good, but 3 is rough.
Oh my
but it's really fun. That is really fun. I enjoy it. They have like a separate pool area. It's a very small resort. I want to say there's 150 units. It could be 300, but basically the way they subdivide the units, 2 bedrooms are 2 bedroom. There's a portion of dedicated 2 bedrooms, and then there's 2 bedroom lock-offs, which can be 2 bedrooms or they can be 1 bedroom and a studio, depending on demand and who books them first.
Okay.
So the unit count is kind of confusing because some of them are used as like a double unit. But it is a small resort, so we don't expect that the maintenance fees are going to be super low always because we know that it is freestanding. And let's see, there is a concierge at the base of it for now, which is unique among the DVC resorts. I think Bay Lake Tower may have somebody down there, but because they have a sales sort of area there. But Grand Floridian has like 3 desks with 3 concierge people. They are incredibly helpful. We lost a bathing suit in our transition from Animal Kingdom Lodge to Grand Floridian once, and they basically told us, go pick a bathing suit out at the gift shop, and we'll pay for it. Don't worry about it. It's not worth stressing over.
Oh wow!
So, and I was like, no, really, can you please call? I love that suit. I'm pretty sure yours is cheaper than the one I bought. So, I buy my children one thing new, and it's swimsuits. So tragically, we did not find that suit, but they were so wonderful. They do have DVD rentals, which they do at most of the DVC resorts. They do not have a community hall, so you're not going to have like children's activities or anything. But they do have that 2 monorail stops away at the Contemporary, at the Bay Lake Towers.
Mm-hmm.
They have a community hall. So being on the Resort Loop is huge, obviously. It's the greatest things about it as an adult with kids is that you can, if you do get a sitter or put your kids into Lilo's Playhouse, or Lilo's Playhouse, the kids would get mad at me if I said Lilo. You can do a monorail crawl. You can hit Trader Sam's, Misner's Lounge, which I think is like the gem of the Grand Floridian as far as just relaxation.
It's completely underrated. Completely underrated.
Totally.
It's a great spot.
You're right behind the Grand Floridian Society Orchestra, which I have a CD of in my car. And
Nice.
you can just listen to them play standards while you sip your dirty martini and feel fantastic. And yep. And nobody knows you're DVC, so you can pretend like you purchased one of those crazy concierge suites in Sugar Key or whatever it is. And it is a kind of a walk to the main building. There is a covered walkway, so that's not a big deal.
Okay.
But it's not like right next to it, so that's something to keep in mind.
Does the DVC there have its own parking lot? Do you park in the same
It does.
resort? Oh, okay.
I believe it does. Yes, it's off by I think it may be shared with the wedding pavilion,
Okay.
or it's next to that, because I know they have separate driveways. The DVC villas have a separate driveway than the main Grand Floridian, and I think maybe a separate driveway than the wedding pavilion, but basically there are a couple of driveways there, and you should probably not take my word for it, research it, but know that there are multiple ones, and there are multiple parking lots. So it's easy to walk over to the Polynesian. It's probably equidistant to go to the Polynesian as it is to go to the main lodge of the Grand Floridian.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope, it's pretty fabulous.
Awesome.
Go check out a luau. Take your kids to 1900 Park Fair.
I'm so.
Yeah, you should come visit us sometime.
I will do that.
We'll get the Grand Villa. Oh wait, we can't, because the maximum amount of banking and borrowing we can get 1 week.
Oh,
So,
Tim's paying for Victoria and Albert's.
well then,
well, there you go.
I have been to Victoria and Albert's twice in my life, and I'm pretty sure that's fantastic, right?
Yeah, it is.
So
I've been there once. I went actually as a child, and I called it the bread and butter restaurant because I had no idea about when I was being served. And it was actually on the Grand Plan, which if anybody's out there listening, they would remember. It's like an all-inclusive thing back in the day.
Yes.
And I had no idea the kind of cuisine I was eating, and I kind of wish I appreciated it back then. But when I was 12 years old, I didn't really know what was going on. So.
you're like, do you have mac and cheese? Why not?
But the Grand Floridian Villas, as a DVC owner, I will be on the Resort Loop with my wife, and you pass right by it, and you'll see people standing on their balconies. And I could stay there. I could trade to stay there. You know, the point value is a little high for what I have, but I still get jealous. I'm like, I just so want to stay there. I was lucky enough to stay at the main resort back in the 90s as a child. I was very lucky. But passing by that building, I get so jealous. I'm like, oh man, I so want to stay there. So it's definitely cool that you own her, Emily.
And I forgot to talk about the inside of the villa, but I will tell you everything is beautiful, obviously new. There are tiny little design flaws, as we'll find with every single one, which I can't remember now, but every time we go there, the floors are this beautiful hardwood or laminate or something. I can't tell the difference, and I don't care to know. The balconies are great. I have a really funny story about somebody's toddler who shall remain nameless, but was totally not being watched by my husband, Wink, who managed to sneak under the balcony divider into go like 4 villas down, and then end up. And then when somebody's husband, who may remain nameless, he's gonna kill me. This person who I'm not gonna reference. When they got done, like desperately talking to security, anybody they could talk to, try to get transferred to 911, etc., because their wife was with their other children at the pool, and that they went out to the hallway and they found said toddler in the arms of some woman, who said toddler had gone into the room of and was happily sitting in her arms. So anyway,
Nice.
That toddler was your
something
husband,
to think
right?
of. The toddler was my husband. He was wearing a little shirt that said Stormtrooper and was wearing one sock.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
You can decide if it was my toddler or my husband.
You might have wanted to save that for our confession show.
Exactly.
I'm just Hey, what kind of views have you gotten? You've stayed there how many times? 3 times?
We've stayed there twice now, I think.
Oh, twice. Okay. What kind of views are you?
So we've stayed standard, and both times. Now I'm a pretty heavy requester, but we've gotten views right over the resort and of the Wishes fireworks.
Oh wow.
So,
nice.
And that's a standard. I mean, that's like the lower point value. Now you have to be willing to look over the poor Grand Floridian Resort.
Oh no.
Over to the fireworks.
Oh,
You don't get like a direct across the water view.
I can't live
But-
like that.
Oh,
I know.
animals.
I know.
Tim, I'm gonna try and jog your memory here because I believe back quite a while ago, we got a show open from Emily at the DVC. Is that correct?
I believe we did.
What?
Yes.
What? No.
School open.
It's possible.
She might have been drinking. I don't know. She was sitting on the balcony
that.
drinking.
I think I had some really young kiddos that time.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I think they
I
were,
remember that.
they were 1.5 maybe. Oh, how cute.
Yeah. So see that? Send us show opens. You never know. You might get on the DVC Roundtable or some other show we come up with.
Exactly. It'll lead somewhere. I do know that.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds fantastic. Can't wait to drive by there one day. And do you guys have anything else you want to add before we wrap up this DVC Roundtable show?
I'm just happy.
Well, I would just and I would just beg for all of the Disney prayers or good vibes or whatever you send for this stinking knee so that I can win us all at Resort Loop Nation a Death Star medal.
Absolutely.
Yes. So send
I will
your
dedicate it to all of you if you guys pitch in there.
Send your healing vibes, your healing
Exactly.
karma to Emily and get her healed up quick.
I've never exercised before, so it's all very new to me.
Yeah, I don't even know what that word means.
Injuries.
So, Tim, that is all I've got.
Oh, everybody, thanks for joining us. If you have any questions for our future DVC Roundtable, so just send them the questions at ResortLoop.com. We'll address them right here on the show. Everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott. You can find me on Twitter, ResortLoopTim, on Facebook at Tim Resort Scott, and the website, ResortLoop.com.
I'm Resort Loop Bob on the Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and rate us on iTunes. And again, real quick, happy birthday, Reggie Dwight. Tim,
Sir.
That's all I've got.
Sir Reggie Dwight. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Be sure to go out there and share the gateway to the magic.
See you, everybody.
Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
Everybody, thanks for joining us. This is episode 310 of ResortLoop.com, and this is one of our new
Yeah, you mean 311.
No. I mean, I'll just start over. I had the paper down here from last time. I wrote 310 right at the top.
That'll be at the end of the show.
Oh, I despise
You
you.
guys are getting confused in your old episodes.
Exactly.
Our old age.
You would think
you guys are number 7. You guys better step it up here. You got to maintain your ranking.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that was awesome, though. Okay.